What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Lee Walk 71 replaced with a 4, and I'm here with another WWE wrestling review for you all. This one being WWE Backlash 2020 with the tagline, "The greatest wrestling match ever," or whatever that may be. This show, it was cool, I guess. I'd say, like, it was not enjoyable. It was pretty boring for the most part up until like the Bobby Lashley match. That's when I actually started to really get into it. I had to actually rewatch the entire pay-per-view before I started this review so I can make sure I didn't miss anything within like those first like 4 matches, I think, which was like the triple threat tag match, Sheamus Hardy, the women's championship match, the universal championship match. Those 4 matches I really wasn't paying attention, so I had to rewatch them, and I pretty much didn't really miss much from those matches. I just had to make sure I didn't miss anything. But let's get right into it. We had the pre-show match, the WWE United States Championship, which seems to always end up on the pre-show. Andrade versus Apollo Crews. Cool match. It was pretty much kind of like their match they had on Raw when Apollo won the championship. I mean, Andrade did cool stuff. Apollo did cool stuff. Did a standing shooting star press. We get towards the end of the match. Angel Garza gets involved, but then Kevin Owens came out before the match, I believe, and like was on commentary. He had on like his regular like attire, and then he had on like a tie. But then he eventually, got involved so he could take out Angel Garza with a stunner, and then eventually it leads to Apollo Crews doing his power bomb for the pinfall, and he retains the championship. Pretty cool match, I guess, for the pre-show. I was still trying to get everything set up, so I wasn't paying attention to it, but it didn't even seem like that much was going on in that match. I usually don't even go back and watch pre-show matches unless it's like a match of the year type, which only has happened a few times since they've started doing these kickoff pre-show stuff. So I didn't think it was a barn burner of a match. It was cool, I guess. Anyways, we open up the actual show with another championship match, a triple threat women's tag team championship match. We have the Iconics versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. And now it seems as though WWE is starting to actually, when they do their triple threat tag team matches, they're doing it the correct way and not whatever way they've been doing for the past years or so, where they have a fatal 4-way tag team match or a triple threat tag team match or even a 5-way tag team match or whatever, and they always just have 2 people in the ring, and then if you want to get in the match you have to tag somebody and then you're in. But it's usually 2 people in the match, and then almost everybody else, with the exception of the people that's in the match, has to sit on the turnbuckle and wait. And it's just stupid because it's like, it's a triple threat match. Where's the triple threat at? So now it seems as though they switched it up, because a few weeks ago on NXT they had a triple threat tag team match and it was all 3 competitors at once. So this is actually, it made the match more entertaining. Match itself was pretty standard. Everybody did their stuff. The Iconics hit their running knee a few times. I thought that was cool. Bayley and Sasha Banks actually did it once to, I believe, was it Peyton Royce? I think it was Peyton Royce. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss actually did this one move that they should like make their permanent move. It was actually pretty cool. It was kind of like a 3D, but instead of Alexa Bliss doing the cutter like deep, no, who does the cutter? Instead of her doing the cutter, she does a DDT, and it's actually pretty interesting. If they can master it, it actually could work as a Raw like tag team finish. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see. That was for a near fall. We get towards the end of the match. Alexa Bliss goes for the Twisted Bliss onto Peyton Royce, but then Sasha Banks sneaks in and gets a roll-up victory, and she retains these women's tag team championship. So now Bayley, or as Bayley likes to call herself now, Bayley Dos Straps, because she is the SmackDown Women's Champion, and now the women's tag team champion. So that's pretty cool. And I believe later this week there's going to be a match between Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox versus Sasha Banks and Bayley for the tag team title. So that should be interesting to see. After that, we ended up getting Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy. To say I cared about this match would be an understatement. I didn't care for it. I say that a lot on here, actually, I think. But the build-up for this match in particular was has to have been one of the worst build-ups I didn't see recently. My God, it was bad. It started off with WWE making a storyline making a storyline out of Jeff Hardy's real life, trouble past. As we all know, Jeff Hardy, used to be a substance abuser. He used to, be inebriated while wrestling. The infamous match from Impact or TNA between him and Sting, Victory Road 2011, match of the decade for me. But eventually Jeff Hardy got better. He sought after becoming sober, and he eventually went on to be the Jeff Hardy we know and love today. He doesn't really do that. He had like a slip up 2 years ago, but he's pretty much been on a straight path, And since then, he's won world titles in TNA. He's won tag team titles in ROH, tag team titles in WWE. He won the US title. So they just decided to let's bring back Jeff Hardy, having a troubled past. So the storyline was that he was drunk and he hit Elias, and then they eventually revealed that Sheamus had something to do with it. They did a a drug test segment where Jeff Hardy ended up throwing pee on Sheamus, and that's when I was like, all right, I'm done. So I really didn't care for the match. The match itself, it was cool. It was 17 minutes according to Wikipedia. According to this time I'm looking at, it was around 17 minutes. Around 17 minutes, it felt like eternity because nothing really was going on. Majority of the match, it was just Sheamus dominating Hardy, and Hardy was coming back towards the end, and then we got the finish of the match. Sheamus hit a bunch of Irish curse backbreakers. We got the Tim beat of the whatever he called it, where he beats on his opponent's chest 10 times. Jeff Hardy did some cool stuff, did a whisper in the wind for a near fall, twist of fate or twist of fury or whatever they called it, because Matt Hardy's not in WWE anymore. He's in AEW. It was that, and we get towards the end of the match. Jeff Hardy tries to do some parkour stuff where he tries to jump off of the barricade, and he got hit with the bro kick. Sheamus brought him back into the ring, hit him with a bro kick again, and Sheamus won the match. Doesn't really make sense for the story because it's Sheamus who got Hardy in trouble, and it's all about Hardy trying to get his redemption on Sheamus for what Sheamus did to him, but it ended up Sheamus getting his redemption on Hardy for throwing piss on him. That's I could obviously tell Bruce Prichard is gonna really, really amplify things here on WWE TV, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, after that we got another title match, Asuka versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. I don't know. What's the best way to describe this? I've seen this match countless times. They had 2 matches on NXT, and they've had 2 matches on the main roster up until this point. The matches on NXT were actually pretty enjoyable for the most part. Nia was still credible, in my opinion. She didn't lose to everybody as a monster heel, and she was actually having really good matches with Asuka. And then they had their matches on the main roster. She lost all of those matches. There's not one match she beat Asuka in. So this match itself was pretty much them trying to convince to me that Nia Jax is still a monster heel, which is like not evident. She did stuff to Asuka. I guess, her attacking Kairi Sane was supposed to make me believe that she's a monster, even though she intentionally tried to kill that woman. But anyways, she pretty much just did power bombs, a bunch of stuff. I really wasn't invested in this match as much. We get towards the end. They fight to the outside. Asuka, I believe she caught Nia Jax an armbar on the ropes before she got outside, and then I believe Nia Jax threw Asuka into the barricade, and the referee was counting the whole time. And then once the referee got to 9, I think Asuka hit a roundhouse kick on Nia Jax, and then she didn't beat the count, so Asuka ends up retaining due to a count out. And I just kind of it took the life out of me when that happened, because I was like, we're gonna see more of this now. We can't just have feuds end at pay-per-views. We have to extend feuds past the point where they don't need to exist anymore, and that's exactly what they're doing with this. Because we're gonna get another match, because Nia Jax will be like, you didn't beat me, you won by double count out. After that, Asuka attacked Nia Jax with the hip attack off of the apron, and that was it. I guess. After that, we ended up getting the first of our 2 world title matches tonight. Braun Strowman versus The Miz and John Morrison, a 2-on-1 handicap match for the Universal Championship match. Now, before the show started, there were 2 things, and they showed it tonight, but there was a music video that Miz and Morrison did. They did one at WrestleMania, but like I barely remember it. And then they did one tonight. It's like it sounded like a cheesy 80s theme, and it works for them because of their characters and everything. It was great for what it was. They basically made a song about dissing Braun Strowman and saying how they're gonna win the title. And then there was also, I guess, a rule that whoever pins Braun is the Universal Champion. There are no co-champions. And basically, that played into the finish of the match. But we had Miz and Morrison come out. They premiered the music video. And then there was actually a cool interruption where there was a train. And as soon as the train looks like it's about to hit, Braun Strowman's music comes out. There's a bunch of smoke and everything coming out the stage, and Braun Strowman comes out. I thought that was actually a pretty cool intro. He should like make that part of his intro, because you know his whole thing is the Strowman Express now. The match itself, it was about 7 minutes, and it wasn't even that boring of a match, honestly, because Morrison was actually very impressive with the springboard moves he did. He did like a springboard kick to Braun that grounded him. A springboard dive to the outside. We get towards, later in the match. The Miz and Morrison actually were looking like fair opponents to Braun. Like, it didn't feel like Braun was just beating up on two dudes. Like, it was actually kind of an even fight for however long that match was. Miz and Morrison do their little finish where it's a skull crushing finale with John Morrison springboard into like a stomp, and then it goes into the skull crushing finale. And Morrison was going to go for the pin, but then Miz pulls Morrison off, and then he's like, what the hell? And then he was like, oh, no, cover him again. But then Strowman kicked out, and then by then it was over with. Choke slams, running power slams, 1, 2, 3. Braun Strowman retains the Universal Championship, and maybe, this might set, plant seeds for a Miz and Morrison feud eventually, because I really want to see John Morrison as a single star. I'm glad they stuck him in the tag team with The Miz so that he doesn't end up like a lot of other people that when they come to WWE in return, where they like that first month, I'd say that first month they are on fire. Then after that, they just kind of get pushed to the wayside. I'm just glad to see Morrison is thrown in with The Miz, so now both of them can get TV time together as a tag team, and then they do whatever. But then eventually I want to see them go their separate ways, and maybe they could even have a feud I wouldn't even say for a title. They could just have a feud in general, have Morrison get his revenge for what The Miz did to him on his way out. Something to just think about. So after that, we got a WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley with MVP. This was actually my favorite match of the night. Forget the greatest wrestling match? Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Drew versus Bobby, best match on the card. It was the best, in my opinion. It was the most interesting built match, because since Bobby Lashley's been back in WWE, he has not done anything, I wouldn't say significant, because he did get 2 Intercontinental Championship reigns, and that stuff he did with Leo Rush was actually like amazing. It's just recently Bobby Lashley hasn't been doing much. He was stuck in that dead feud with Rusev over Lana. Rusev got released, so now he's pretty much stuck with Lana. But then they threw in MVP, and that's kind of a callback. I wonder whose idea was that. Throw in MVP. What happened? Threw him in, put him with Bobby. We all know what happens last time MVP was with Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley went on to become a dominant figure in TNA, even after MVP left TNA. When Bobby Lashley was won all of their singles titles and then just said, I don't even want them no more. That was an amazing time for Bobby Lashley. So this match was really good for Bobby. The match instantly started. He instantly attacked Drew McIntyre, put him in the Master's Lock, or the I forgot what it's called. What's the name of the move? The full Nelson. He put him in a full Nelson until Drew McIntyre was on the ground. The match started. Bobby Lashley started attacking Drew. Drew eventually got some offense in, but Bobby Lashley honestly carried this entire match. There was stuff Bobby Lashley did that I never would have thought I'd seen him. He drove Drew into the turnbuckle. He even caught Drew into a crossface, which I thought was very interesting, because I never seen Bobby Lashley do something like that. He was wrestling. He was wrestling tonight. This is Bobby Lashley, the wrestler tonight. Drew McIntyre, he still did Drew McIntyre stuff. He threw around Bobby Lashley too. They were hitting each other. It was like a big, strong guy Hoss match where they were just beating the crap out of each other. And I love to see that. I would much rather see, them two just kill each other and just have them destroy each other than them just doing basic moves to each other or something. It was fun to watch. Lashley also called Drew into somehow countered him into an ankle lock, I believe, which I thought that was pretty cool to see. We get one point in the match, Bobby Lashley hits Drew McIntyre with a spear. Lana comes out to get involved. She gets on the apron. Bobby Lashley's telling her, "What are you doing?" Drew McIntyre hits Bobby Lashley with the headbutt. He eventually falls into Lana. Lana falls on top of MVP. And then Drew McIntyre catches Bobby Lashley slipping with the Claymore kick and wins and retains the championship. After that, Drew McIntyre celebrates. Bobby Lashley and MVP just walk away and leave Lana on the ground. He just looks at her and keeps it pushing. And that's the way it's supposed to be. My brother, we got to leave these white women alone. No, I'm just playing. Do what you want to do. But it was just cool to see. It looks as though they're finally dropping Lana from Bobby Lashley. That's perfect. And hopefully they continue to keep MVP with Bobby Lashley, and this eventually leads to him getting a WWE Championship run, because Bobby Lashley deserves it. Like, he really left TNA when he didn't have to. He was in a top spot in TNA. He left TNA to come to WWE just for WWE to not really do nothing with him until he won the Intercontinental Championship with Leo Rush. Like, he deserves a world title run. Like, he literally, I feel as though he's literally everything Vince McMahon would want out of a wrestler. He's jacked to the gills. He's tall. Bobby Lashley's like 40 something and he's moving like he's 30, bro. Like, he has everything it takes to be champion. And hopefully by the end of his run or the end of Brock's run, we get a match between the two. That's all I've ever wanted since I've like heard that he was coming back. I think that was like what got him to sign with WWE, was that there's a possibility of him having a match with Brock, because he never got that when he came to WWE because Brock was already gone by then. So hopefully this tandem between Lashley and MVP continues and eventually will lead to a rematch between him and Drew, and this time it can have Bobby beat Drew, because that was a good match. It was a fun match. So after that, we were originally scheduled to have a Raw Tag Team title match between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. Now, before all of this, they've been doing packages, videos, and all this type of stuff on Raw week by week, basically, where the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders feel as though anything they can do, the other team can do better. So they played basketball. They did axe throwing. They played bowling. They did what else did they do? They did something else. They did like a decathlon where they like picked their own challenges to do. So that was pretty cool, I guess. They did something else. They did miniature golf too, and it's been hit or miss. Some of them hit, some of them missed. So I guess this is the culmination. It's a more of a cinematic-esque match, but it really wasn't even a match because they just ended up going into a brawl backstage. They destroyed Braun Strowman's car. They ended up fighting backstage at the Performance Center. And I think that was Full Sail too. They were fighting backstage at Full Sail. They had a standoff at one point where the Street Profits had golfing clubs, and then the Viking Raiders pulled out a shield. Ivar pulled out a bowling ball, and Eric pulled out like an axe, and it looks like they was about to go at it, but then they start fighting backstage again. You see Ivar take a bowling ball and throw it into Montez Ford's jewels, as we like to say, the crown jewels. So I don't know if Bianca Belair will have the children with Montez Ford that she wants to have because of that. So after that, more brawling ensues. It ends up somehow Angelo Dawkins just spears Ivar through a glass window at the Performance Center, and I thought, oh, that was pretty cool, I guess. And then this is where it goes downhill. This is when WWE just said, fuck it. And they just said, do whatever you want. They told Bruce Pritchard, whatever you want to do it. So after that happened, and this also confirms everything everyone has ever said about WWE being racist to anybody. So after that, there's a standoff. The Viking Raiders and the Street Profits eventually are confronted by a bunch of biker ninjas. I wish I could make this up. Viking ninjas being led by Akira Tozawa, right? So as soon as that happens, Ivar, Eric, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins team up and become the Viking prophets. After that happens, you see Ivar put his hand out, and then there's a turkey leg stuck in a tree, because that's been a running gag for weeks now, is that Ivar's addicted to eating turkey legs. Anyways, he reaches his hand out like he's Thor, and the turkey leg floats into his hand, and now he's gonna fight with the turkey leg. So after that happens, the Viking prophets start to have a fight scene with these biker ninjas, led by Akira Tozawa. So after they beat up all the ninjas and do everything, Akira Tozawa looks like he's at a loss. And then some big 7'3" African dude. I'm pretty sure everybody at one point has seen this man in the Performance Center. It's kind of hard to not see him. He's 7'3". He had a mask on so you couldn't see his face, but we all know who it was. He's black. We saw the black. He almost blended in with the mask. Let me relax. All right, so he pulled out a sword. He pulled out a giant sword. And they all looked at the giant sword, and it looks like they all were going to fight, and they said no. So they end up just going back to fighting each other. They fight on top of a trailer. Angelo Dawkins hits a bulldog on Eric off of the trailer onto, I guess, it was a garbage can. And then Montez Ford gets tossed into it, and then Ivar does a swanton bomb into the garbage can. And I was like, ooh, okay. I don't even know what's going on at this point. So after that happened, they both are all out of it in this garbage can. One of the female referees comes out. She's like, oh my God, y'all matches is next. And then there's the running gag they've been doing for years, where the female referee was like, oh, Ivar, you're cute. Eric, not so much. And that's literally been a running gag since they've done these events, is that, like, it was a female cop, a female judge, I think one of the owners of the bowling alley who was a female, who was a woman. Let me get that correct. I don't want people to come after me for that. Basically, all the women that they've came across in all these events has called Ivar cute and said that Eric, not so much. I don't know. After that, there was an alligator that just appeared in the trash can, and then they all just ran away. And that was the end of that segment. You could obviously tell Paul Heyman is not involved with any of this anymore, because we all know Bruce Pritchard is taking over both Raw and SmackDown as the head, creative director. So that means Paul Heyman is done, and it really sucks because Paul Heyman honestly has made Raw very enjoyable. I have not been able to enjoy Raw in a long time, and I wouldn't even say I've actively watched Raw every Monday. I catch the highlights, I catch the clips on YouTube, but what I have seen, I've been thoroughly entertained because I like what they're doing with Aleister Black. I like what they're doing with Seth Rollins. They finally did to him what I've been saying for centuries: give him a character and he'll be straight. And they gave him the character of the Monday Night Messiah, and now look at him taking off. He got his own flock of people. It's amazing to see. Aleister Black has been doing great. There's a lot of people that have been getting pushed that I don't think would have been getting pushed. Apollo Crews would not be U.S. champion. Ricochet and Cedric have been like the only flounders, and I'll throw in Humberto Carrillo in there too, have been like the only flounders in my opinion. But then there's other people that Paul Heyman specifically looked out for, and I don't know if they're going to be able to be used the same, because now you got Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon running things, and they both are old. They don't understand how things work anymore. They are running off of an old mindset, and they still think it's going to work, but it doesn't. It never does, and it reflects that in the ratings. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. If we end up with the same summer of WWE from last year, I think that might be it for them. But hey, New Japan's back, so whatever they do, I always got New Japan to go back to. I think they had an event earlier this morning, but I wasn't up for that. I was definitely knocked out, but I'm going to check it out if there was any, good matchups to check out. So after we got that catastrophe or whatever that was, we get to the main event. Billed as the greatest wrestling match ever. Better than Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man at WrestleMania 3. What could be better than Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, which wasn't even that great of a match. It was literally building up to the Power Slam, and then Hulk Hogan did leg drop and won the match. It wasn't that great of a match to me, but for the time, it was probably the best match ever. Better than The Rock and Stone Cold. Better than Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, right? This is supposed to be on par with that, right? They've been building as the greatest match ever. They even changed up the apron to say the greatest match ever. The Tron says it. Both men come out. They even have the introduction of it. They had the Fink, Howard Fink, RP the Fink, because he passed away like I believe a couple months ago, either a month ago or a few months ago. I don't remember. But RP to the Fink. They had the old school Madison Square Garden microphone come down, which I thought was a pretty cool touch. And they basically had pre-recordings because I'm pretty sure at some point Fink introduced both Randy Orton and Edge in some type of a match at a Mania of some sorts, right? So he basically did that. Both men had their own time to pose. Even the referee was dressed up like the old school WWF referees when they had the bow ties and the long blue shirts. And then we had the match. The match itself, it might sound like a broken record, but if they would have shaved 10 to 15 minutes off of this match, it could have been a really great match. And I'm not even going to say the match was bad, because it was actually a wrestling match, so they actually, did stuff in the match that was great. I like some of the stuff they did, but the match just took on forever. Like, why do they do this, bro? Like, it happens at NXT a lot of the times, and it happens in New Japan all the time, but New Japan knows how to pace their matches very well to where you don't even notice how long the match goes. NXT does it, but like, they do so much stuff in that match that you'll forget how long the match is because they're doing all types of crazy stuff. This match was kind of like that, but it was boring at times because you had a bunch of rest holds. I'm not even about to go into, move for move, but they really wanted to emphasize to you that this is the greatest wrestling match ever. They had Edge do a rock bottom. You had Randy Orton do a attempt at Three Amigos as a tribute to Eddie. You had Edge do a sharpshooter, but then they called it the Education or whatever. You had Randy Orton do a pedigree. What else? Just all types of stuff. Both men just trying to kill each other in this match. It just went on for too long. We get towards the end of the match. Edge goes for like 2 spears. Randy Orton kicks out. Eventually, Randy Orton hits an RKO. Edge kicks out. And then we get towards the end of the match. Randy Orton hits Edge with a punt. 1, 2, 3. He wins the match. I don't know how to feel about it. I was just shocked to see Randy Orton finally use the punt. I don't know what took them so long. I guess he could only do it to certain people. Which, I mean, I guess if he could start doing the punt more, that'd be great. That'd make me more that would make me more interested in Randy, I guess. That'll bring back like his old heel, persona where he used to just punt people for no reason. So that'd be cool. After the match, they pretty much sold, this feud. Edge staring at the sky, dazed and confused. You got Randy Orton telling him, go back home to your girls, go back home and be a father. This ain't for you. You ain't about this life, yada, yada, yada. They bring out a stretcher, to really try to sell this punt kick. And what makes it even worse is that they really did this match, and then they did all this, and then Edge ends up tearing his tricep. So it's just like, wow, y'all really fumbled that. Y'all fumbled Edge's return. Because apparently from what I've been reading, he got injured doing a retake of the match because I guess, they filmed this entire pay-per-view last Sunday before a takeover so that the crowd was energized. Matter of fact, how could I forget? They did all of this, right? And then they piped in like a fake crowd noise, and you could obviously tell it was a fake crowd because they would do certain chants, like a "This is awesome" chant, and then the people in the audience weren't even in sync with "This is awesome." They'd be saying "This is awesome," and then the chant would have already been over. Like, they weren't even in sync. It looked so off, but because it's supposed to be the greatest wrestling match ever, it's got to have a crowd reaction, but you can obviously tell it wasn't a real one. But if they want to keep it, that's cool. That'll make things more interesting, but it's like obvious that it's a fake crowd, but whatever. Yeah, so Edge got hurt doing a retake towards tricep. They say that the time for that is like 6 to 8 months because I believe one of the authors of Pain got hurt, which is why you haven't seen him on TV with Seth Rollins. So yeah, that sucks because there's a lot of matches that Edge could have been, building up for SummerSlam. There could have been a match between him and Seth. Now we're gonna have to wait like almost a year for that. So that's something. Yeah, the match itself though, it wasn't a bad match. It was cool for, what it, wanted to accomplish. It just, they don't have, the match didn't have to be 40 minutes, bro. It could have been like maybe 30 max, 25, 20 to 25 would have been straight. They would have got everything they needed to do within that time period. But yeah, was it the greatest match? No. I don't even think the greatest wrestling match took place in WWE, if we want to be honest. But that's just me. Anyways, overall, I guess Backlash was enjoyable. This isn't my favorite pay-per-view. This is probably going to be my least favorite pay-per-view in this quarantine era. Because so far, I feel like my favorite pay-per-views was WrestleMania Night 1, Money in the Bank, and Double or Nothing so far. And that Takeover in Your House was fun too. Those 4 shows in itself, Mania Night 1, Money in the Bank, Takeover, and Double or Nothing seemed to have been my favorites. This show was just kind of weak. Maybe because like the cinematic match was just kind of thrown in there. It was kind of forced. It wasn't like built to anything. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy this show. I thought the Drew and Bobby Lashley match was dope. I hope we get more matches with them in the near future, hopefully with the title change this time. But overall, the show was okay. It was like I give it like a 6.5 out of 10, I guess. It was an okay show, I guess. But I give WWE credit. The show ended really early. It ended at I think 9 something. It was only 7 matches. I think they want to keep all of their shows short since this, so this is great. They don't have to double stack the pay-per-views anymore like they usually do, because if this was a normal pay-per-view with them being in arenas, it would have been like 11 matches on a card, and it would have dragged. But anyways, that's all I got to say for this show. Overall, the show was just kind of dull, was mid. But you guys know what to do. Like, comment, favorite, subscribe. This you do to support me. Follow all of my social media links down in the description below. That includes Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, my Twitch page, and whatever else is there, because I don't remember. Anyway, guys, I'm out. Black Lives Matter. Peace.